Recon² stands for Recycled Content Reconnaissance. Really, this was born out of questions that emerged when talk of both the UK and the EU bringing in plastic packaging tax or taxes that would look at the quantification of recycled content. And we thought that's going to be pretty difficult to do that from an analytical method. And I guess this is because I'm a physical scientist at my core, and that if you're going to quantify something, you need to quantify it. Although we looked at lots of different types of technological interventions that could deliver that, the one that was really consistent and accurate and inexpensive was what we've developed. At its core, this is a molecule that we can add in the exact same way that you would add an additive during plastics processing. And that could be each individual component might have a different level, but we can do that directly on a product without having to faff around with reprocessing and without having to get quite complicated data sets. This could be a QC check that someone could use on their products, but it's a way to really assure that all of those members in a supply chain are doing what they say that they're doing. And so that issue of trust, which is really where the plastic packaging tax originated from, is to try and rebuild the public trust in plastics as the lowest carbon solution for things like packaging. I think that there's an urgency around the plastic packaging landscape, which focused our minds. And this is by no means a limitation, but we very much focused on the high volume plastic packaging system. The public doesn't really understand the pressures that those very small margin companies are facing because they view the plastics being what's in the grocery store. And so there's a really complex supply chain that goes from that original recycler all the way through to the company. If someone else in the supply chain did something different, and the brand owner that's then coming to you and complaining about stuff, you have no way to really prove who the bad apple is in that supply chain. And so Recon² would have this really good relationship with the recyclers where we can work and license this technology and enable that to be tracked through and audit those batches. But if you actually want to know a lot more about your supply chain, you can just say, okay, can we look at each one of these steps? And you actually get to get a sense of variability of your own process, but also a sense of variability in each one of those supply chain partners. And so the big next step for us is a number of large scale blind trials where our partners are then processing materials and we don't know what the recycled content is going to be in the final product, and they're using that to test us. We're absolutely looking for more partnerships. Where we have seen increased interest is from brand owners and retailers. If someone has an interest, especially if they have a particular product or wants to come in and say, okay, well, here's a challenge. Can you also do this? Then we can build that into what we're calling our early adopter user group.